Well, on my way to Dayton, we have Sweet on Pete, Purple Laura in today, Smoking Hot Irish Girls in today, Coop is in tomorrow. So lots of horses finishing off their season. We saw Crantini leave some more money on the table last night and make a break. I talked to everybody after and said, listen, Crantini's issues are mental issues. They've been that way forever. I know that there's always going to be people that say, well, we should have done this, or we could have tried that, or maybe we did this. And as I spoke to a couple of close friends last night, it's always easy to take a look at what took place in a night like last night, and then in hindsight say we could have done this, or we could have done this differently, or that differently, or why didn't we do that? And I'm no different. I'm left saying that. Why didn't we geld Crantini in March? We still will have people that say, oh, don't geld him. He'll come around. He just needs to mature. 100%. But the issue with Crantini is mental. It's not physical. And that throwing your head and lunging and getting into that stuff, that's got to come to an end. He made great money this year. He made 80,000 or something. But he could have made twice that or more had he been on his best behavior all year and just paid attention a little bit more. You take a look at a horse that raced in an earlier race, Spitfire Overseas. I don't think overall he's as fast as Crantini, but dialed in, and raced as good as he could race last night. You have to understand. Somebody said, he wasn't quite as good as the week before. So you're saying he wasn't quite as good in the Breeders' Crown elimination as he was in the Non-Winners of 2. I would have to agree with that statement. That's an accurate depiction of the state of Spitfire Overseas, and there's nothing wrong with that. Overall, we have to understand, again, it's Monday for you, so maybe you're over it a little bit more now than I am right now on Saturday, the day after the Breeders' Crown eliminations, but that's the top of the food chain. This isn't the Pennsylvania final or the Ontario final. This isn't, an obscure race in the middle of summer, This is the Breeders' Crown. This is the culmination of an entire 2-year-old body or 3-year-old body or age horse body of work for these horses racing. And your horse, 1, has to be good enough. 2, has to be coming in sound, healthy, sharp, get a good trip, and be on their game. All this has to culminate. It's all timing. I look at a horse like Carter Michael Dio. Was he a little bit sick last night? Probably. Did the recall hurt him? Yeah, it did. Did being off 6 weeks going into this race hurt? Yeah, 100% it did. Everything is about timing. And it makes me go home. And obviously, as you can imagine, I didn't sleep great last night, even though I was super excited that, against a lot of odds heading into race 4 last night, Spitfire Overseas found a way to get in, and he didn't find a way. He earned a way in because Doug McNair's horse had less money made than him. So, congratulations, everybody, with Spitfire Overseas. He's heading to the Breeders' Crown final, and I think even the day before when I did my video, I said, all things being equal, today, Spitfire Overseas is the one who is coming in the sharpest. Yes, Crantini qualified good, but still has that, that mental block that he leans on sometimes. And, Carter Michael Dio would have to rely on sheer, raw power and talent to get in last night. And I'm not so sure. As I said, I was talking to my father this morning, and I said, every athlete, including horses, they get wound up, right? That adrenaline starts pumping. And if you watch before the recall, I had Carter Michael Dio perfectly timed it. He wasn't throwing his head. He was focused, and he was going out of there. The 3 and 4, Crantini and the 4 were on the run. The 1 and 2 were not on the gate. I was going to be first off the gate, and I was going to get spotted great behind horses that ended up doing well in the race. Would he have faltered? Would he have let go? Maybe. I don't know. But again, that adrenaline's pumping, and then there's a recall, and now we got to walk and wait for everybody to regather. What kind of a dump was there for our horse in particular that maybe didn't have as much in reserve because he was coming in a little short? And you step back from all that. And this is what I'd said to one of our clients. Step back from all that. Still three great 2-year-olds. We're just racing against the greatest 2-year-olds in North America. So Spitfire is going to be a long shot, but he is going to the Breeders' Crown Final, and we should be proud of that. Crantini, we will castrate Crantini. I can't roll the dice and double down that he is going to mature enough that he'll stop doing what his brother did his whole life and what he has done his whole life. Now, Macho Martini doesn't really do that with us now. I haven't seen it anyway. Seems safe. But he's also 4. So I don't want to waste our 3-year-old year. And the only indicator I have is here's 2 colts that are half brothers that do the same things. And if you look at the 3-year-old record of Macho Martini, it is not stellar. So I don't have a lot to go on, but I have more than enough to say there's no reason not to castrate Crantini, and he will be castrated. And that's not out of anger. That's just out of taking in all the information I have in front of me. One, as you're a partner on the horse, and 2, somebody that understands the inner workings of horses and how they operate. I can't double down that he's not going to be the same as he was this year. I can't do that. So we're going to have to try and nip that in the bud, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. And then as far as Carter Michael Dio, he didn't do anything wrong last night. Nothing against the horse. He had a great season. He too had a couple of breaks at the start of the year, but seems safe now. And last night was amenable to doing his work. Didn't want me to take him back to last. And did he sulk a little bit when I did? Probably. You talk about everything. You look at everything we just talked about, and then add in the fact that he didn't want to get away last. He's not used to getting away last, but I'm not getting parked with a horse that I got a lot of respect for. And when I left the gate this time, the 4 was going as much as I was. The 1 and 2 now are well aware who's coming from the outside. I would have to straight up out-sprint them to the turn with a horse that hasn't raced in 6 weeks. I needed a trip. That first run behind the gate, that was our trip. The second one, we needed to take what we were given. It was just the way it played out. So, as I said, if you step back and look at it, 3 great colts. We had a great year with all 3 of these horses. So it got me to thinking, I'm driving down the road, just wondering myself, about this year. Am I just overly optimistic because they were our horses? I like to wipe the shine off sometimes and take a look at the reality. Look at it even from a pessimistic view. What did we really do this year? Did we really have a great year? I don't know. We kicked off the year with Una Madonna setting a track record and selling her for an extraordinarily high amount of money. Swinging Senorita was our first horse, still is our first horse, took over $200,000 in their 2-year-old rookie season. Ended up the year razor sharp, finished 3rd, and looked very, very good. Carter Michael Dio, Spitfire Overseas, Crantini, all horses that did well. And again, I don't often like to talk about wins and money and this and that, but there are particular points of information, aren't they? Carter made a tick under 100, Crantini 180 something, and Spitfire is up closing in on 70 now, and if we have a decent week next week, maybe he'll get to 100. These are all very modestly priced horses. Nothing but a dreamer. Finished the year as a grassroots champion. I actually don't know what he made, but I know it was pretty good money, and he finished off the year with a lifetime mark in his last start. That's the type of stuff you want to see as a trainer or an owner. Then we got horses that are still going, question marks on them. The 3 horses in New Jersey right now. We've already won 2 races with Brace for Landing, and you get to see now how tough it is to actually earn money with these horses sometimes. I don't know what he has made, but it's not a lot. We gave a lot for him. But he's also a trotter that's already won twice in 56, shown an immense amount of talent, and understands his work, is immature, but is growing by the day. We had an opportunity to race these horses this week, which would have let them 2 weeks before the 4th kindergarten leg. All 3 of those horses, Landing Strip, Brace for Landing, and Tactical Mounds, have had fairly light years. They'll qualify this week. A lot of people asking what they're doing. All 3 of those horses will qualify this week, which will bump them right up against the 4th leg in the kindergarten. Will they get in the consolation? I don't know. Tactical Mounds will be done before the other 2 colts, because both of them potentially could race in the Valley Victory. If they get in. And not to forget about the grassroots side in Pennsylvania. Austral Hanover, a dominating force in there. And when he wasn't crushing them, Tailgate Buzz was. They both had extremely good years. And even the filly was winner in one grassroots and then ended up the year a little tired, but she was a little underweight. We turned her out early, let her grow up, and we're going to bring her in late, and that's Sister Solange. Very, very happy with what I've seen from our 2-year-olds this year. Our 3-year-olds, how did the year start? Blue Bayou Dio and Bomb Hugger were both sold partway through the year. Blue Bayou Dio set the track record at Oak Grove, as did Una Madonna on the 2-year-old side. Bomb Hugger did as good as she could, but ran into some buzzsaws in that division. We sold both those fillies for fairly good money, I think. Resolute Bay dominated the last 5 starts of the year. I told everybody this colt was going to get better and better and better. And as somebody said the other day, well, Anthony, is he going to race? He hasn't raced in a month. Well, let's go easy on Resolute. He did make $70,000 his last 5, which were all wins, by the way. So Harry went easy with him, entered him last week. He didn't get in, so he waited, schooled him. Horse schooled great. He's going to continue to race until he tells us that maybe he needs a break. And here's a horse that was dominant, as I said, in his last 5 starts of the year and was the grassroots champion. So on the trotting colt side, we won the 2-year-old and the 3-year-old division. Renegade Gypsy has turned into a very, very nice horse, and a horse that I thought would be sold by now continues to make a case not to be. Continues to be a strong horse on the trotting side. Red Overbach, here's a horse we purchased, and when we're talking about the purchases through the year, I'm going to end with those. Let me skip over him for a second. Taiwan On has had a spotty year, but still has shown flashes. Sweet on Pete, that mile of 54 in Delaware was incredible. Purple Aura still has the 2-year-old track record, Dayton, and has had a decent year, although hasn't been as consistent as she was last year. And then to end the year with the ones we bought, J.K. Mickey Mantle's 1 in 52. I think he's got a very bright future ahead of him. Red Overbach, we bought him midway through the season. He's been really, really good. I think we kind of got the shaft on the super final, and I think we would have done very well in the super final. Here's a horse that has already won in 53, I think twice for us. And then they had somebody set back in London, then they had an emergency appeal. They placed that horse back up. When they placed him back up, that put him in a tie with us, and then virtually a coin flip, and we lose it. We're first also eligible. So a little frustrating news at the end of the year. He's in to go. We still have him, and he's a very, very nice horse. And anybody that's actually walked up and petted and looked at Red Overbach, you can see how big and strong he is for a 3-year-old. He's only going to be a better horse moving forward. And then, of course, a horse like Atlas Hanover coming in 3 in a row, wins. Yes, the jug was exciting in the final, and then very anticlimactic and parked in the final. That still bothers me a bit, but it is what it is. And he's won his last 3 and is going to the Simpson in 3 days from when you watch this, or 4 days, depending on when you get it. And then after that, I've spoke to Jimmy King. He's going to take him to the Progress Stakes and the Matron for us. Turned into a very, very nice purchase. This horse looks like he could be a very good horse for the stable at 4. And that brings up a good point too, is that we always usually focused on trotters. Always my comfort zone, my happy place, so to speak. I like pacers, but I love a nice trotter too. But when we look at the pacers we bought, we got Atlas, you got J.K. Mickey Mantle, but what about Patrick DeParana as an aged horse, Sintra? We made some very fortuitous purchases in those horses, and they were on the heels of some trotters that we had bought. Kings County, good as him, we don't hear much about yet, but I think he's developing into a nice horse. Per Lucky hasn't had a consistent schedule. He's going to race in Indiana this week. We're probably going to shut him down for 3 weeks after that, 3-4 weeks. You may see him also head to Dover. And then, of course, our mainstays in Ontario, well, let's not forget about who probably is the best horse in Ohio right now in Kings County. 2 in a row in the Open at Dayton. Was a track record holder for a brief period of time at Scioto. 51-4 in incredible mile. And then, as I said, not to not talk about White Tiger or Locatelli would be unfair. Neither of them have won the Open yet, but I think you can see they're knocking on the door and doing very well along the way. Now, those are the very broad strokes. Just popping into my head driving down the road, I'm sure I've forgotten 5, 6, 7, 10 horses that we've done well with. And to say this has been a banner year would be an understatement. And then I look at what we've done this year at the sales, what you've allowed me to do. Looking at the pedigree of these horses, now it's far too early for me to say, well, I broke them and I like this one or that one, or I like them all right now. None of them are doing anything wrong, which is a treat, so to speak. But what an incredible year. What an incredible year we've had on the track, and quite frankly, I couldn't ask for any more as we head into the last stage of sales season, and that's Harrisburg. So when I look at what we've accomplished this year, who we developed, how we developed them, how they've raced, the success we had, how couldn't you be excited and happy about what the stable.ca has represented? You know, we did something last week which I never really thought we'd do, and that was promote another trainer that's not our trainer. And I know I said I finished that blog that I've been trying to write for weeks and months, actually. I just haven't had a long enough time to sit there with one train of thought and finish it. I sat down last night, 12 o'clock at night. I didn't go to bed till 2 because, as you can see, I couldn't sleep that well anyway. But I thought I would finish that blog, and I don't think I was in the right frame of mind to do it. I ended up changing it all around. I'll get it written, and hopefully we'll have it posted next weekend. But the gist of it is simple. The stable.ca not only has done everything to show the industry that its short-sightedness has cost it, but it's never too late. By believing that fractional ownership, the way that we do it, the way that we did it, was not going to be successful, was incorrect. But they haven't taken the next steps, right? It's wonderful when people say, geez, you've done a great job, or it's so exciting what the stable represents for the industry. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm humbled by when people say that. But we need the industry stakeholders to take that next step. The obvious question I would have to everybody in the industry is, why haven't more people done it? Where is the next stable.ca? Where are the rest of the stable.cas? The problem being is that trainers do need help. Most trainers are not as upfront, forthcoming as we are, I suppose. That doesn't mean they can't change, but if they're going to change, the incentive to do so is very powerful. When you look at the stable.ca, the incentive to do so is there. The next step would be, how do we get them there? What's the vehicle in which we could drive the average trainer from doing things the way they do them, which maybe has been successful in the past or less successful in the present, back to a position where they could be very successful if given, as I said, the right vehicle. How do we get there? What's that vehicle look like? And as I said in a video the other day, and as I'll say in my blog, that vehicle has to be a hub, in my mind. It has to be driven by the stakeholders of the industry, the horsemen's associations, the commissions. We need to expand on fractional ownership, or this industry is in trouble. And it's not, people misunderstand what I'm saying. I understand that there is. I know a lot of people have said, and said to me last week, somebody had said to me, there's no horse shortage. It's just the breeders bred less horses. Well, okay, if that's the case, we're both right. There is a horse shortage. You just explained one. The only difference is you explained why, and the why doesn't matter. If in fact that's correct, the why doesn't matter. At the end of the day, there are less horses to fill race programs, and that's irrefutable. Just look at the draws every day. 9 races on a card, 7, 8 horses in a field, if that. And of those races, how many of them are full of competitive horses? Not nearly enough. There is a horse shortage. And there is a horse shortage likely because there's an ownership shortage. It is supply and demand. We've shown people how you can fix that problem. We've shown people how you can fix the ownership, the participation lag or depletion. We've shown it. But what we need to do is have the literature, have the information, have the education out there for our trainers. It's one thing just to show them the stable.ca on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube. It's quite another to show them exactly how we got there, what that road looked like. And that's where the stakeholders in the industry have to come in. If the breeders don't help out a little bit, you're not going to have people to buy your horses. You need bidders. Each year there's less of them. And you can say, oh, the sale topper's this and the sales are way up. That will change. That will decline. And at what point do we start being a little proactive? I think you've missed the boat. There is another one coming. Because if we don't do that, people like George Burroughs are going to get out of the game. And if they get out of the game, eventually what you're going to have happen is there's going to be 20 trainers at every racetrack, if that, and all the other guys that used to race and all the other ladies that used to race are going to be working for those trainers. And that 20, if it is 20, will dwindle to down, down, and down until we don't recognize the game we used to love. So, although this is our video, this is an in-house video, I'll continue to call on the stakeholders of the industry to do something. We'll continue to help if we can. And hopefully, come next year, this time, we're not having the same pleas, same questions, same lack of results. So that is what the stable has done to date, both in the past, as I said, brought all of you happily and luckily on into horse racing and onto our platform. Brought new clients and breathed new air into an industry that was getting a little stagnant, quite frankly. By doing this and by showing people how to do this, hopefully we can strengthen the ranks of the trainers in our industry. That will be step 2, so that we ensure there isn't a horse shortage. We ensure that our industry stays strong moving forward. So as I said, we had a pretty good year. I guess pretty good, depending on how you look. It's a little bit of an understatement. We had a great year. The sale season has been great for us so far, from my eyes. I believe a different year. Every sale is different. Although we didn't get the horses I thought we would, we got the horses we needed. You know, I spent yesterday looking through last year's Harrisburg catalog at the numbers, the horses, the names, the ones we bid on, prices they went for, how they ended up. It's a tough game. It's a tough game. And it's a fun game, but at the same token, we have to make sure we win with our eyes open, as we did with the Breeders' Crown yesterday, as we will with the final, and as we will with the Harrisburg sale coming up. I guess it is about time. There's no reason not to start talking referencing the buckets that are going to be coming up in Harrisburg. I believe we'll probably start putting those out on Monday. Now, as I said to Wendy the other day, Wendy was concerned because when we sold the lots of the buckets previously, the exchange rates were different for Ohio and Lexington, and to when I sent the money out. So Wendy was concerned that, and as she should, it's her job, that $350,000 US bought into Canadian funds way back in August is quite a bit different than $350,000 bought into US funds now. So I had told Wendy, and I think everybody understands the exchange rate issues. We're not talking about an obscene amount of money, but it is money. It's very simple. Show the people the exchange rate when we sent the money out for the sales, and everybody will understand that that's what it costs to buy American dollars right now. Obviously, for American clients, it won't really factor into them, but for our Canadian clients, it will. So as we head down to Harrisburg, we have to keep that in mind also. I always counsel and always want to make sure that our clients, don't stretch yourselves. Things are tight right now at home. Don't buy in. Maybe wait until Christmas time or January or February. If you're not 100% convinced that right now's the time when you should be buying horses, then you shouldn't. We're not going anywhere. Stable's not going anywhere. I just want to have a clear view. I am super happy with what we've done so far. Financially, we're in a good place. I looked at all the shares on the board yesterday. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money to carry. I think we can get it done. So as long as I'm responsible in Harrisburg, which would be from you being responsible in Harrisburg, everything should work out great. So I'm happy. I'm excited. I hope you are too. At the same token, it is a cool sale. This is where we got Crantini last year and Spitfire Overseas last year and Brace last year. So we are going to do some business in Harrisburg, but I want to make sure we do it honestly, fairly for our clients. They understand everything that is going on coming into the sale. It is an exciting sale, and you know what? I talked to Curtis last night. We will be backed by popular demand. We will be putting on a Harrisburg show. Now it'll only be 3 days. The fourth day, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in Harrisburg is the second book, which is more regional stuff, Illinois and stuff like that. And there's not that many yearlings selling that day. It rolls into, I believe, weanlings and broodmares, stuff that we can talk about during those 3 days. But the 3 days, the first 3 days of Lexington are the big 3 days. I do have to line up a place where you can do the show. We were nice enough to, Lexington was nice enough to allow us to use that pavilion. There is not, well, there is, but there is not a pavilion in. I guess there is. I just don't know if Harrisburg will be as accommodating. So we got to find a place to set up the show, do the show for you, put Harrisburg to bed, and continue on our year. I was excited yesterday to see LD's Patrick come back. A little bumpy, a little rough around the edges. Nothing we can't work on. He'll be back at 100% very, very soon. Shake off the ring rust, so to speak, and back in action. We have some other horses. Yes, we did have a little bout of colic, a little scare for us about 3 weeks ago. He's back. He's going to qualify on Wednesday. We have a number of horses almost there, getting ready to go as the stake season winds down in North America. We want to make sure that we have our front line, the tip of the spear for the stable.ca for the fall and the winter ready to go, and it looks like they are. So that's exciting. A lot going on at the stable. I wanted to take the morning to absorb everything, look at everything, not be pessimistic, continue to be optimistic, but be realistic about where we're at, how we got here, and what's going on moving forward in the future. We have had a tremendous 2022. You've allowed me to buy horses that put us in the bracket of, we hope we have an even better 2023, and we'll continue to do that as we move forward together. So, a more reserved Anthony today, but at the same token, I think we touched on everything we needed to touch on in a very realistic way. So, I will be at Dayton in another 2 hours, a couple of hours early, talk with Jason, get a feel for the horses, hopefully have some luck tonight with Sweet on Pete Aura and Smoking Hot Irish Girl. This will be Smoking Hot Irish Girl's final start, as it will be Coupe de Ville's final start tomorrow. Sweet on Pete and Purple Aura will likely be racing in Indiana next week, and both of those horses, now I do want to touch on a number of horses we will be putting up for sale. Now, horses like Sweet on Pete, Will to Win Hanover, and those types of horses will have hefty reserves on them. I'm not giving the horses away. Even though I know racing Sweet on Pete moving forward will be difficult, she does have residual value as a broodmare, and I'm not oblivious to that. So we will be listing a number of horses up for sale, all the way from horses that have just not proven themselves to horses that are racing okay, but kind of in a difficult spot now, or will be very soon, to horses that are top-end horses on the broodmare level angle, and of the racehorse level angle. Horses that I can't give you a clear path on the track forward for right now. Those are the horses you're probably going to see on that platform on Halloween. So, as I said, we'll talk about that more this week. My focus right now is on Harrisburg coming up. Obviously, the Breeders' Crown coming up. Dominic, I didn't get to touch on it last night. Dominic Ledoux, I'll talk about it just briefly. Dominic Ledoux is one of my very, very good friends that I've had for the past 20, 25 years. I've known him very well. He's had his own homebreds and raced horses, but has never had the opportunity to race horses like we've given him the opportunity, you've given him the opportunity to do. And although coming off the track, he didn't know it because he was super deflated that Carter Michael Dio was flat, probably blaming himself, which it had nothing to do with him. He did a great job trying to get the horse ready. It was what it was, and it boiled down to timing, both at the gate at the racetrack last night and heading into the later fall races. But he didn't realize what I did. When I was coming down the lane, Scott and I were beside each other. I could tell how angry and really upset and frustrated Scott was, and I was too, but at that point I wasn't angry at Carter. He had a good year, he did what he could, and he did nothing wrong. I wasn't angry at him, but I was watching the TV because I also knew what was about to happen. I knew that if Doug McNair could finish 5th, that Spitfire Overseas would make the final and Dominic would have a horse, we would have a horse in the final. And I don't know if they showed the head-on view. If you want to go back and watch it, I'm sitting straight up, and I'm trying, as I'm approaching the TV, I'm trying to watch the finish. And as he went right under the wire, as unhappy as I was for the finish I had just had, that I hadn't even had yet, I was going under the wire, I was elated to the fact that I could tell Doug McNair was 5th by a neck or head or nose, and that we were going to have a horse in the Breeders' Crown, and Dominic was going to have an opportunity to experience that. A guy that's worked so hard his whole life, and this industry is just so merciless sometimes. You know, sometimes working hard isn't enough. You guys know that. We've all lived it in our real lives. Sometimes working hard just isn't enough. And we've given a guy like him, a guy that's worked hard his whole life, a guy with a family, with so much in common with me, a chance to race in the Breeders' Crown. He didn't realize it when I come off the track, and I said, you had a great year, buddy. Not the end of the world. And he was like deflated. I said, but I got some good news. And he goes, what good news could you possibly have? I said, you're going to the Breeders' Crown. He said, what do you mean? I said, I don't know if you were watching, but I was. Doug McNair was 5th. And for those of you playing along that understood, there was only one horse in the program that could finish 5th that would get Spitfire Overseas in the final. Only one. Doug McNair had not finished 4th, not finished 6th, 3rd, 2nd, not win. He had to finish 5th. It's the only position he could finish, and the only horse that could finish there for Spitfire Overseas to get in the final. We did get in the final, obviously. We drew good. The horse is coming in good. He can be helped. We scoped him last night. There was a little mucus there. So we're going to work hard on Spitfire Overseas all week long to make sure that we have him as good as he can. Now, having said that, he's still going to be a long shot, but he's going to be our long shot in the Breeders' Crown. And for those of you who know horse racing and have followed the Breeders' Crown since its inception, much like I did when I was a kid, all the way to today, you want to see long shots win races. You never see them more than the Breeders' Crown. So, we have the best driver in Canada by far right now driving our horse, and my brother James McDonald. And we have a guy who works tirelessly on his horses in Dominic. Spitfire Overseas will be at his very best heading into the Breeders' Crown final next week. So, we did make it. Not only did I outline the great year we had with horses we did have a great year with, but we also have an outside, a vastly outside shot, but an outside shot to do some more good with Spitfire Overseas. So thank you all for the year. I guarantee you that Dominic is walking on air right now. He deserves it. We have given somebody who earned it a chance. And even though earning something isn't enough sometimes, we definitely allowed Dominic an opportunity to be involved with some horses he otherwise would not have a path to be involved with. So whether it's Harry, Jason, Mario, or Dominic, everybody is very aware of what's at stake, what you guys allow us to do, and they allow us to do every single day, is be a part of something that myself and many of you never thought you'd be involved with. So, thank you all again. A tremendous 2022, regardless of what happens next week. heading to the Harrisburg sale next is top of the agenda. So we'll switch gears over the next week, and we will be talking about Harrisburg. I'm going to go a little deeper into the catalog, look at the horses I want to look at, make lists up, talk to you specifically. We are going to have a show for you and everybody else in horse racing, because that is important also. We are going to finish off the year showing the industry exactly what it can do if it applies itself a little bit more. So thank you again. I hope you all had a great weekend. It's a beautiful day here, and I will talk to all of you very, very soon.